So I took a nap. I thought I would have been woken up. I took a nap about 8 o'clock. It's now 8:48. It's 9:48. I thought I would have been woken up at 9, as they normally do. They walk around the corridor and cool. So, around me here, where I am, everyone would have been hearing that live audience very, very close because they've been really, really loud in my ear. The last thing they've just been saying, Mandicheta Kachingwe, you were loud in that audience just now. And she just celebrated that I made sure this video is available to adults. Mohammed was gently speaking to Zubir, saying, no, come on, Regayende Calvin. Zubir, as I said in the other video, decides to pretend he is somebody else. Zubir cannot be called Calvin, Mohammed. You cannot be saying no Regayende. Just before he said that, some other people said, Rumbi, don't move too fast. He's trying to put something new in your body. You have no idea how long he's been in your body. He's already put something technology in your body. I reported to the nurse earlier that I had some spotting earlier. What had happened then, which I hadn't said to them, is that I felt as if someone had plugged or like pegged. You know when you have a peg, those wooden old ones, a peg clipping, biting on your urethra. For a woman, you know what the urethra is. If something goes on that tiny small pipe that ejects urine and bites on it, you've limited the capacity to pass urine. And so I bled a little bit. Now what I'm going to say, if they ask me, I'm going to tell them that I'm stressed. Because people in here will tell me that you should have taken your medication. But I'm going to tell them that it's a new environment. The discomfort and things that are happening here could have caused me to spot. Earlier with your audience, because here, they know the audience has been here. Do you know what? Let me take a screenshot of what time it is and then use that as the screen cover. I've been recording for, let's see how long the recording is. 4 minutes and 10 seconds. It's 21:52. Write it down. Because people will ignore, I'm sure the doctors on duty, they will ignore that there's actually a live audience. This room, they may be recording. Yesterday, the audience kept on saying that I think they're using this room for the police recordings. It was 21:52. 4 minutes, 11 seconds. It was so loud. Down the corridor, someone was echoing what was happening. Sounds like a male. There are males on duty. So sometimes mental health people will ignore that audience, the audience that's live streamed to. So in this case, because my light is off, I don't know how they're presenting the footage. Officer Mohammed is the officer who's been promising Zubir arrest. One time I was having my private prayer time. Officer Mohammed tuned in and said, let me see how a Christian responds. And he struck me. Zubir struck me. I froze. And then I cried. This is 2026. It was before Christmas. I suppose it was before the hackings of my internet. Because I was in my flat. It may have just gone past midnight. Because by the time he was hacking my internet, I was often outside, possibly sitting in the brewery area, trying to connect to the internet. The officer who I reported some of these things to, who then contacted me about what's been going on, is Officer McCullum. I was sending him information based on whatever I would be hearing that audience saying, or whatever Zubir confirms in that audience. You cannot ignore that audience. There is a time two officers attended to take statements when I was in my flat. I don't know their names, but we sat there, their cameras were on. Then Zubir raised his voice. And the officer, the older one, said to the other one, well, he said to me first, I'm so sorry, you're not paranoid. He heard Zubir loud and clear. And then with the other one, they decided, okay, let's get out of here. I think we have enough information. So what I understand from the case is that they look at, oh dear, what I've just realized. The rape threat. Megan Dunn and her partner didn't find the suspect. That may be the one that was closed. Because they came back to tell me that Hannah had said Zubir Francis had moved out a month before. The fortunate thing for me is I had hired a car. I said, no, that's what she said, really? I didn't expect that she would go and close the case because she had left me her email to be sending her information. I think she may have responded once. I sent her further information. She's not responded yet. But that case, the threat of rape, apparently is closed. Zubir spent a week moving his car about. I ran outside when I saw his car, thinking maybe I might spot the officers if they were sitting in the car recording something. They had gone, so I made a 999 call to say, could you update? There have been officers who've just attended my property taking a statement, and they've gone into the neighboring flat to go and find out where Zubir is. What I didn't say to the officers is, I heard them say to you that they're going to demonstrate. So I really don't know what they were shown while they were in there. I did try to take advantage of the moment to try to warn the officers not to be in there. Because Megan Dunn has a splitting resemblance to Hannah. But for me, I'm quite attentive. I can tell them apart. Because when they attended, she and her partner sounded quite diligent. That day I did something unusual. I asked the officers, as I think they had said, tell us what's been going on. And then I said, where should I start from? What do you know about this? And Officer Megan started narrating what she knew about the case. I'd reported to the police so many times I was getting ready. Actually, this was on a Sunday morning. And she asked me, are you getting ready to go out? And so I said, yes, I am. So the afternoon one, when I hired something, I stand corrected, was another couple of officers. My apologies, Officer Megan. But on that day, when Officer Megan left, I did hear Hannah saying, how come the way you wear black and white doesn't look the same as when I wear black and white? How come it doesn't work out for me? I was dressing in the next flat, wearing my skirt and top. I had black, white, and gray. She said something that sounded jealous of Officer Megan and I. When they had gone, Hannah expressed, because I think sometimes they forget that their mics are still on, so their voice is still being amplified into my flat. When they had gone, Hannah said, maybe I'm going to become an officer. She has a habit of trying to replace people. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes in that flat, I suspect she may have thought she could have a disguise one day. She's a common thief, Hannah. She's been burgling my flat for the longest. Suppose she walked into Romford police station and somehow acquired a uniform. Or maybe, with their capability, happened to track any of the officers because they have somehow put an emergency app and lodged it on my phone since I started calling emergency services. Sometimes when I've called emergency services, they're wondering why they're still connected to my phone when I've hung up and why they still hear their voices in my phone. And so emergency services has eventually become quite nasty when they've called me and just said, you're calling us too much. They're wondering why they can still hear me and they're asking their colleagues in their offices. Some of these emergency services are admin staff. I applied for a job with the police. You're not always an officer. You can be an admin staff. But people who also answer emergency services can be police. I have seen in their cars that you can have the 999 dispatcher and response technology. So I think mostly the admin ones, they get very, very upset. And sometimes, like on Christmas Day, I had someone get really, really nasty and hang up the phone on me. Those are key workers. On holidays, it's triple pay, I think. I'm still a nurse. I had the unfortunate occasion of working on Christmas Day once. Triple pay. I still had to be nice to the patients. So I started getting text messages. You've made numerous calls to the police. I paid no attention to the rest of the message. But one day in the new year, I decided to check. What do you mean when you're calling me a numerous caller? and you're telling me, advising me to stop calling the police when I am the one experiencing all these attacks so often. And so the person explained, it means we're calling you a hoax caller. So sometimes you reported something, we'll still record it, but we'll send you a message that brands you a hoax caller, which means the next person who answers my call is going to tell me that, oh, you rang us earlier. Because what tends to happen is right after I've reported something, because now I don't wait for the Pierre Francis to admit the things. Once it makes sense to me, once he's made the audience read out his plans, if it's going to be an attack or if it's an admission that they've been trying to murder me for a long time, so they've been using these attacks first as entertainment, and yet they then make the, fortunately for me, mistake of brutality, of increasing the intensity of those attacks to brutality, such that I experience those previously experienced body degenerating, bone degenerating, muscle degenerating attacks. Say, for example, trying to melt my pelvic bone, trying to melt my spine bone and the area around my spine, trying to melt my legs. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but these guys have had the chance to develop technology so harmful, from medical equipment technology, where that sort of technology is used to pinpoint, say for example, an eye, the iris, laser technology, corrective surgery, where doctors who are equipped, trained to do such surgeries, and sometimes perhaps in nursing, sometimes you can graduate to some degree that you sometimes take on the doctor's roles. Maybe you can start to do certain procedures under the doctor's watchful eye. Maybe you might be a student doctor. Zubir has networked himself so far within the NHS to find out information. So I went to A&E a few times, wondering what was going on, when my legs, my lower limbs, were experiencing discomfort so concerning that I felt as if my legs were wrapped up in blood pressure cuffs. So I went to get checked out twice, waited in the A&E queues overnight. Sometimes I left just after the ob's been taken and blood's been taken, waiting for the results, waiting to hear if the results would sound like something else is happening. But if everything was inconclusive, or like just saying, rather actually, if they say to me that, okay, everything's okay, you can go, then I would just leave. Because when they do the bloods, they check everything. So should anything have been checked, have been flagged up mentally, I would have known. If anything would have been flagged out, let's say infection-wise, I would have known. So I was okay. And I was hearing them talking their flat about what they were doing to me. At first I was in disbelief. So that's why I went to A&E twice. And twice my mother came to the hospital. I did not summon her. She just turned up. I wasn't happy about it. So sometimes we weren't getting along while we were in the queue. So perhaps you'll understand if I ever show her this video, that I didn't like that, because I'm an adult. I was already going through so much. I was already an adult, so, and I knew that there were some people who were just attending that A&E queue as directed by those people who live next door to me. Some of them were mocking me, some of them were watching me. But when I would get back to the flat, They would be discussing some of the people in the queue, especially men, saying which men did she avoid, and then would try and inflict pain, constituting to maybe the size of the person, that what would this person have done to her. So if I laid down, it would feel as if there's a hole in my bed, or I'm lying in the snake of a in the mouth of a snake or an anaconda. I would feel as if I'm being licked all over. Disgusting. But when it got into my private area, that was the worst. That would be the worst. See, I don't know. I would rather not have had the light on. This is very, very sensitive for me. I prefer it when they knock and speak with someone. Anyway. So it wasn't pleasant for me to be going through all that. But the intimidation of that period made me keep quiet and keep my head down. One day I saw an old friend who I would have accommodated, but I tried to assign to my family home instead. He couldn't even speak to me. I think maybe I had known something. But by then, they were also saying I was part of their household. They were also claiming that I was their childminder. They were also claiming that I was a prostitute. They were also claiming that I was mentally ill. The type that is probably learning disabilities but no capacity. I think that's what they were trying to say to people. Because I think that's what people imagine when they're not exposed, or I don't think educated is just the word, aware of what mental wellness really is, the way that is taught to clinicians. I think it's the stigma thing. Because there were many people who turned up in that queue to be mocking and taunting me. And they made it obvious. But then there were also some people who were perhaps unwell. And they got targeted. So I think Subir got the idea of now speaking to people, because at some point I had to get into a radiology appointment. I had gone back to 27 Guches Drive. I had not been eaten. And suddenly my family had called the ambulance. I complied. I went to A&E. My blood sugars was okay. I used to sleep in the living room. I don't know why my family was so concerned, but it may have been my responses too. I was living in the living room. I was very uncomfortable. I wasn't saying much because I wasn't sure who was in on what. And I had seen my name on their computer. And it was a new computer. I had never used it. Earlier, I meant to discuss with my mother HMRC charges, which Lisa Madiri has apparently caused me because she tried to use my company. Then when she couldn't use my company, Subia, I think, convinced, she was given the information by Subia Francis. And then I think he's convinced someone in HMRC to put it on my name instead and say that I was self-assessing. And yet each time I've worked, throughout my whole working career, I've either been a bank staff, an agency worker, or used my company to report. I've never used self-assessment texts. I've even assisted other companies to file for their taxes. But personally, I've never done payroll for my company. I gave it to another company to file for my company, even though I know accounting and I can easily pick up systems. I just declined to be self-assessing for tax. So they're charging my unique tax reference number. And I've reported the person. Because I saw Lisa on Flat 4 Oak House patio. And they confessed that they gave someone my information. I did get a tip off and I made my company dormant. But I had seen her on the patio, on Flat 4 Oak House patio. And then it turns out, as hearsay goes, that Lisa had been to 27 Gucci. Oh, don't know how to say the address. But perhaps she didn't realize that when you try to register yourself on other people's gadgets, the name you use appears in the drop-down list. And so she didn't delete the information. So I found out that she had used my information. Lisa apparently met her husband during that time. She was traveling a lot with people who were taking her up north. People from my church community used to drive around and come and park outside the house. Most times they didn't come and knock the door. They were being given a link to some app and were managing to do something, which I'm not really sure how to explain, but I'm sure they will. There's a mental health nurse called Pamela Liwayo and Gilbert Liwayo. One day I stepped outside. It was a Sunday evening. And I saw them in a smaller car, much smaller vehicle. The parked with their car hanging over our pavement. So I was curious. I took courage to go out and check the car and just kind of befriend the people in there so that I knew if they were staying long or, yeah. So when I went out there, I said, "Oh, hello, are you guys staying long?" And Pamela lifted her head. And I was like, "Oh, Mike Liwayo." Those are leaders in the Fifth Me community that attends Dagenham Assembly. It's now a mega church. They amalgamated all their small branches that I used to manage the accounts for into one big church. So, since the early 2000s, going up to about 2010, when I started working in the office, prior to that, I was singing on stage, on various stages, the local one, the regional one, the provincial one, the national one, and would be filmed by a department called EGIA, Ezekiel Guti Evangelist Association, and they broadcast live mostly to all the branches across the world globally. So we were in 120 branches until about 2010, and then it was still growing well into like 2000 and up to today. Obviously it's still spreading. We're all over the world in small branches. Perhaps I should not say where yet. I'm not sure if I'd be welcome at the moment, but I did record a video yesterday to alert them after Zubir's admission about his attack on Christians, who he's using in that live audience. It's really for them to not realize the truth and not realize the urgency of the season. And Hannah often says to them, "This is not a game, I'm taking you to hell." And that's here on earth and literally hell. So I think sometimes people join in, think it's fun to taunt someone. they might forget some of those confessions and admissions that Zubia and Hannah do. They call it strengthening each other against me. So I had to disclose in a very short video that, guys, actually, your war is not with me. But here we are. That's just this evening, this night, they've been in the forefront again. Sorry, Mandiketa, this is not really a game. I know you've been caught up in a very unfortunate occasion with them, and somehow you've been excused for it. Things could be much worse. I don't know what you've said for you not to be arrested in the capacity that they had trapped you in, which is what they would wish for themselves. Well, they wouldn't wish it for themselves. They'll try to push it on somebody else. Zubia Francis once apologized to his son after what I think was being caught red-handed. I'm not sure who may have caught him red-handed yet, but I know that Adam had said he was about to sexually assault me. There was a brief discussion on pedophilia in the summer last year when he was out on the communal grounds. I was sitting on my patio on my hammock. And so when I sit out on my patio like that, now since 2025, it's clear to the residents around that I am not part of their household. I am sitting on my own property. I had to literally use my hammock to be blocking them off from walking all over my patio because these people are so disrespectful and so entitled. I don't know how many times I told Zubia Francis not to walk on my patio. This is when he was pretending to have forgotten, but I would then hear him tell the other people, oh, don't worry about it, walk through. I stopped speaking with him after that. I stopped being cordial, but the intimidation grew. And sometimes they used to extend their presentations, their theater sort of presentations, as they would personalize my secret memoirs as if they're reciting some sort of theater production, of which most of my secret memoirs were my secret meditations that I would be writing down my love messages from God using scriptures. So sometimes I would personalize them. Sometimes I'll just write out scriptures. And then these people were acting them out as if they were the characters within the scripts I was writing. Apparently, Zubia had been warned by someone not to plagiarize my work. And then he started saying to people who would be in his flat that I've been given a year to give myself up. This was part of his confession on the 31st of July, 2025. He had been saying he's suicidal, and the year was up. Apparently, he had presented a skit where he used a Caucasian male to wear a judge's cape and sit in a dock. But the place where the person sat could possibly be the area where a plaintiff or defendant sits when they are being questioned in court. And this man seemed to be questioning Zubia. He was standing in front of him. At Romford Town Hall, I don't know if that's how it presents. I've not been to court, but that's what it looked like. And so there was not much else. I was just presented with a small video. I also have my sources. Unfortunately, there are other ways which, like I said, people were coming to park at the property, right outside the property in Harold Hill. And I think they know how some of this stuff is done. And I think, Elder Gilbert Liwayo, you must have known what you were doing because you were very, very anxious. Or perhaps something was being done to your body for you to appear that way. Either you actually know what they were doing, what you had been, if you had been sent, or if you had been given information, or your body was literally being shaken. I've seen even an officer's body being shaken, but from the shoulders up, when I've been reporting crimes and admissions of these criminals. I got so scared for her. I thought they might actually try to snap her neck while I'm standing there. So I got so scared, I turned away. I couldn't believe it. But they've done it to me before. But I braved it. And then I started talking to her. I really wanted to ask her if she had a natural twitch in her neck. But the audience was so loud. There was not really pretense in that moment. So I used what they call my head voice to try and address the issue, to see if she would be comfortable to not pretend about the situation. She only managed to do that the very next day when I bumped into her without even a plan or anything. I met her leaving the brewery. I was still across the road, near the range. And she just shouted, "Opt out, all police." She seemed quite normal there. The twitch was not as visible. It was like non-existent. She seemed totally okay. It's quite difficult when people are opting in to be supportive in that state. Yesterday, I apologized for an experience that my mother, a very unfortunate experience that my mother and so many other people who've been in Flat 4 Oak House have experienced. And I think it's very, very difficult to express yourselves in those situations. But at the time when she disclosed to me that something had happened, she was very, very angry. And again, we were not getting along. But I took it in mind. My heart was broken that I could not be there for her because of how angry she was. Fortunately, they got family counseling. The pastor turned up. Unfortunately, it didn't sound like right at the end when the pastor was about to pray, it didn't sound like he believed that something had happened because I turned left. I shared it with another nurse who's been visiting me quite a lot, a mental health nurse. In hindsight, now I realize it was inappropriate. Although they've said to me quite a few times that even if you're discharged from a hospital, in the community, they still have to follow you up. The thing is, in the community, they had already been questioned whether they were going to continue. And they said it's inappropriate. There's nothing for us to look into. And so I've already had those discussions, and I expected to be discharged formally so that in the community, there would be no need to be raising concerns like that, of that nature. And actually at that time, I was actually blaming my family because they had pretended they were taking me to a friend's house once, and we had turned up at Church Road. Everyone seemed to be unhappy with the decision to take me there. We almost had a car accident on the way. And then I had to start telling them off. The whole time I was keeping quiet until we got to Church Road, and then we almost had the car accident. And I said, no, wait. Are you guys trying to take me to the mental health office? Because I know where we are. I could direct you instead of you guys fighting. Look what just happened. And then I started directing them. So we got there. My mother went in. I'm not sure what she said. And then one of the gentlemen came out. And then I had to say to him, no, do you know what? I don't need to be in family counseling. If there's a relationship thing going on, you need to talk to them on their own, not with me. I do not need to be a part of any discussions here. I had to decline. And so my mother just giggled and came back into the car. And then we went back home. The friend was called Fred. I don't know if that's the name of the clinician or it was just to use to get me there. Unfortunately, since then, my father did then get admitted. He bled for the second time within 12 months. No underlying conditions for it. I've not had the chance to speak with my father. I will not be able to say much else right now, but I knew what had happened. So I won't get into too much else, but I know it's to do with all this, that Subir had done a revenge attack on him. He had participated in the game a little bit, and I was upset. I may have said something, and my apologies to him. He may have taken that against me. Right now, I can't be saying it directly right now, because his temper might flare. Oh, actually, earlier on, Zubir did threaten that he's going to make a revenge attack on the whole family. I think he was going to make us all bleed in a way that the rest of the family would not be able to express themselves. So when he threatened in that way, I was already in the thought process of going to reveal that I had a moment of spotting, but it had stopped. And that's why I decided, because of the way people in the mental health team pretend that they can't hear the live audience. I did mention once in another video, there were two officers who attended my property to get statements. They came in, they were standing the whole time, their cameras were on, and the women in the audience were shouting because their mics had been put at a distance a bit. Say, those mics, those cameras will not pick us up, so we can say whatever the hell we want. Those are still people I used to be with in that community. I think Patience Mutiza was among them. I'm not sure if Cleo Mtingo was among them. But Patience Mutiza apparently is quite diligent with their presentations and writes things down. So maybe she'll know the date and time and who was also with her. Patience Mutize did once join 27 Gushi's Drive. She camped there for 3 days, I think, 3 nights possibly. But on the day she decided to depart, I didn't see her the whole time. I was staying upstairs on the second floor. She was on the first floor. She kept her head down quite well. On the day she was leaving, she was wearing blue jeans and a blue hoodie. She let me know she was on her way out by aggressively knocking hard on the door to the living room where I had been staying. Oh yes, on that night I was on the ground floor. It may have been after she had gone that I started sleeping on the second floor, but then sometimes I was sleeping on the second floor. So she knocked the door hard and ran outside. She is part of how the audience then started getting projected on that side of town. The audios would always sound as if they were in the front of the house, but over the houses across the road. Over time, they've developed the capability of making their audio sound like they're traveling through the street or connecting to the cars, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. It's stuff that you can't ignore anymore. I remember once when the mental health nurses attended. I think the other one may have been a doctor. The other black lady who was with Chidima, I think she was a doctor. Chidima set forward to cover up that smart television, the presenters were starting to address us. The TV was on. The week before I had said, oh, let's say, like the traffic gets really loud. Or let's say, like, even if let's say maybe the window is open and you can hear traffic. And I asked her, had you seen that? Oh, on that day, no. I think she was with the psychiatrist. And he asked me, I don't think he pretended that day. Anyway, it was one of those visits. Whoever she was with didn't pretend, but she set forward to pretend, to cover up. It was impossible to ignore because the presenter addressed us. So she started to speak over. So I figured out that, okay, she's probably not going to let things go until I stop sharing information with her about what's really happening. And at the time, I hadn't figured out what's going on. But since I went back to my property, I started to comply because I found it a little bit intimidating that she covered it up. Because when I was staying there, the TV presenters were not holding back. They would address my parents. By the time that I went to live with Jonathan Charakupa, we weren't pretending either. They would address him, they would address me. Sometimes we would almost laugh and not ignore or pretend with each other that we couldn't hear what the presenters were saying. Sometimes they caused us to be uncomfortable. Well, me to be uncomfortable. Sometimes Jonathan would use his head voice. Darling, if you are listening to this, bear with me, sweetheart. You know I'm with you now. Sometimes, that's not for Jonathan Charukupa, that's for my current husband. Just to clarify for those who might be thinking there's something else happening. It's not. I'm still with my husband, who is in Cameroon. So having these things happening, it's only the mental health teams that say they don't want evidence when they approach me. It's only the mental health staff and people around, or people who somehow hung out with Zubir to some extent, who come and try to pretend. Zubir himself is not pretending, he's not a criminal anymore. One day he stood out on the patio and said, oh, I forgot, I've been pretending to be innocent. And then on another day, on the same day, later he said, oh, I forgot, I've been pretending. This lady never volunteered. The lady next door never volunteered. So, unfortunately, at some point, I guess he changed his mind. He decided to stay as a criminal and then decided to continue doing the daily thing of shifting the bar. I thought maybe going ahead with marrying Charakupa was sufficient enough to end the attacks on me, because apparently I was supposed to be with a colorist, and that was good enough because many people were being rescued by other colorist people. When they say that, they're talking about Asian men. They were being rescued from poverty or from bills, either being given jobs or opportunities so that they rescue them from attacks from this criminal gang. It seems that Asian communities know how to deal with rescuing women from terrorist gangs or from gangs in general. I used to live in Stepney Green with the Bengali community. I went to school there, learned their language. Unfortunately, sometimes I only remember the rude stuff. My apologies. But when I was working in Tower Hamlets, I learned their language. I was documenting the meanings to help the whole community, whoever was approaching in East London and couldn't understand. I would speak with them somewhat fluently because, well, I spent a few years working there. And Google Translate is quite helpful. So it made the clinic much easier, and it made it much easier to help people who were disadvantaged with the language. And sometimes when the interpreters were not available, somewhat became like a counselor sometimes to couples. Because sometimes I think, just like any other clinician, if you have pressure, you might not help your clientele, the patients, enough. So I think they appreciated it at the time. Unfortunately, after staying with Charakupa, he decided, no, go back to your family. I'll come and pick you up from there. But the way I was shamed with some of the people who knew, I mean, the whole way, there's no way of ignoring the situation. The whole way, TFL Overground Services were using automated announcers, the AI announcer, to ridicule me the whole way. But sometimes it wasn't ridiculing as such. Sometimes it was trying to announce things in a way to hold people back from attacking me, because it was getting a bit too much by the time I got to Whitechapel, Stratford, all the way up to Ilford. The Asian women were getting really aggressive and really mean. Apparently, they thought now that I was coming back, I might be picked up by their husbands or something. Some of them were shaming me about, she used to work as a desk, now look at her. It was so intimidating. Because should any of those people who lose control like that approach me, I was so scared. And I did not appreciate that I had been sent back on the train like that. But well, the man had promised to marry me when he came for me. Events took place and we then decided to officiate anyway. We agreed to give the bride price money, the small token, but I didn't have change. So I gave my father the token of money for the bridal price that I had. Charakupa wanted to do something major. And I was telling him, no, just do the small amount. It's totally fine. They will accept that small token. In fact, at some point, my father, I think maybe he had been upset. He had said, even if you don't bring anything, let's just get on with it. So yeah, I went along with it. And so we gave him the money. Charakupa immediately, well, we were on the phone when we gave him that money. We did it in an unconventional way. It is what it was to do. It is what was available to do. And then we agreed for me to change my name to become a Charakupa. We agreed. My documents came over, got it signed, got it witnessed, and I got the certificate, the deed poll. And so I expected Charakupa to come for me. I wished it had been sooner, but unfortunately it wasn't soon enough. The mental health team attended. The nurse in the community attended and started questioning me again. What do you mean you got married? As Africans, we don't do things like that. Again, the pretense. I somewhat clammed up, but I had tried to explain the situation that unfortunately, due to circumstances, this is all we could do. I had to accept the unconventional Valentine's way of doing things, so to speak. She seemed somewhat upset and she kept questioning me. And then she offered me on another visit help to be, I don't know if that's what the enhanced team do. She just kept on saying there are support workers who will turn up. I'm not sure what capacity the lady had been in, or maybe she owns a company that would have been supplying those people. But I kept asking, is it really necessary? She said, we'll be coming in for for a month or something to be seeing what you're doing. I said, can we say a week trial to see what it means? Because I wasn't understanding. They were not explaining fully. And then the lady just said, you know everything. And so she really tried to conclude that meeting. But as they left, she was running away from the nurse who's often coming and bringing other personnel. She literally ran. And that week, I expected the people to attend. They did not turn up. More recently, I was called by other clinicians who've been saying, we've been asked to call you because your nurse says she's not been able to reach you. When they were admitting me here, they said, the concern is that you've not been engaging. Apparently, as disclosed today, the social worker said, it's your family that raised concern. But they hadn't. My mother confirmed it, that they were sleeping when she called. But we've not been talking for a long time. And she said, well, yeah, obviously we're worried, but we haven't spoken to her in a while. And that's because I reported to the police for trespassing, because I've been trying to keep a safe distance and my parents were not getting it. That you can't be pretending at this level, considering what I'm going through. So I had to make a legal move to keep them at a safe distance so that I can figure out what's going on. And what I figured out is that they've been intimidated to some extent, that they went along with the game, and I had to keep them at a distance so that I find out what level their involvement is, to find out what's real and what's not. As families, you always have your in-house things, but I did not want to mix it up with criminal activities. I knew they were being forced to do certain things, to treat me a certain way. I was very aware. But it was dangerous for me to keep them in the loop, to keep them able to just attend anyhow, because I know that these criminals were trying to take my property and they were often burgling me. And now they had admitted that we've got your keys now. Your chain won't keep us out of your property. Oh, the cockiness of criminals. They ambushed my mother and assaulted her and took the keys off her. So terrible. But as experienced clinicians, she did her due diligence. Went to get her bloods checked, scheduled treatments and everything. Very, very promptly. Just as you'd advise someone coming from a forced situation, say if you had experienced assault in that extreme way. I don't know, people might not get so far in the video. Date rape and things like that. Do excuse me. It's amazing how it's possible. That someone can use advanced technology like this to lodge it into someone's body and then cause you to react as if you've got a catheter in your system and funnel body fluids out of your body down the leg. And you not feel it on certain parts of your leg, but you feel it lower down. It happened the other day. I was wearing trousers. The rest of me didn't get wet, but my trousers got wet. So tonight I missed an opportunity to have what they call supper or something. I took a nap. I just decided, okay, for the past 2 days, they've been knocking my door. Sometimes they'll just come in. Of course, my light was off so that I could try and sleep. And there's no way I'm prompting this light on because last night we could not turn it on at all. This very light here. We could not turn it off. Okay, I'm going to cut the video short now. This is a very, very unfortunate situation. I'm going to be thinking whether to publish this video or not because I'm still within this premises. Experienced and educated clinicians, only one was bold enough to express that you're a modern slavery victim. You shouldn't be here. I don't know if that made it into the notes. But the nurses have been asking each other, why are we opting in, especially in the afternoon when there was danger looming for me. Anyway, perhaps it will turn out better. I mean no harm for anyone here. But unfortunately, sometimes people in their territories who've been used to a certain setting, they get quite guarded. They need proper attention being in here. I don't need that attention like this. But of course, sometimes I have to speak to the staff when I need attention, especially to find out about the appeal. But not everyone in here has that capacity to understand that. I actually upset someone earlier just because I asked a question to 3 staff and they stood up and walked away, marched off. My experiences with mental health people is that they can be quite territorial. Misunderstandings can happen. Goodness gracious, knock on wood, no violence comes upon me because of such misunderstandings. But by now, people who've been living in such situations, I did speak to someone who said she's been in the system for a very long time here at Good Mace Hospital. So they would have formed their cliques, and the way your rights can be taken away when you're in a system like this, it's basically prison. The way I was removed from my property, they brought the law, they brought a warranty, they brought sectioning. So you have a brief discussion with the doctors before they decide, we're taking you. Actually, from the time they arrived, they were saying we're opting in, we're opting in. Only one doctor said I'm opting out. So the lady who then admitted me here, I think she may have said she was opting out when we had arrived here. Perhaps that was only about the name calling, I don't know, because still proceeded into the admission. She wasn't saying that whole opting in and out thing anymore, so I guess they'd already opted in. But only one doctor had said he's opting out, and so he stopped questioning me. I had actually shown him the screenshot where Zubir Francis's name appeared on the drop down, and he tried to convince me that, well, you could have Googled him and his name is now coming up. But I had to explain to him, no, actually, this is a business opportunity that I parked overnight and decided that I would come for the next day. And on the next day, when I clicked that screen, his name appeared too. I think it was a mistake on the criminal's part. It's just I managed to take pictures, and then the next day, and it's because I had changed the locks to my property. I actually forfeited paying my mortgage installment that month so that I changed the lock. And so I think that was desperation, that he can't access my property anymore. And so he made an obvious mistake of showing his name there. But soon after I had taken pictures, his name wasn't appearing anymore on my laptop. So maybe he had a moment to think about it, and then he said, I'm opting out, and didn't question me any further. So the other doctor is the one who took opportunity. Oh, the light in the toilet's just gone off. The other doctor is the one who took the opportunity to then ask me about guns that he had seen on social media or something. I said, yes, what about the guns? And then he said, well, they can be used to protect yourself and so on. I said, actually, yeah, that would be a good idea, but I don't have a gun. And I'm not getting a gun. I'm not harmful to anyone. I'm not presenting as a risk to anyone. But I have been taught to shoot. My grandfather and I hunted birds. He taught me how to. The thing is, I didn't think it was necessary for me to disclose that should I actually acquire a firearm, I know in the UK I have to approach it legally and actually get licensing for it. But what I did disclose was I've applied for police jobs too. I think seeing guns on my profile for them would show that I'm not afraid to work with people who are armed. But I actually applied for admin roles. So, given that I disclosed information like that, should show that I want to do things above board. So, it will not be sufficient for them to use the excuse of the discussion of guns at all. I know the other nurse was making jokes on the day of admission about guns, but it's not appropriate to use that as an excuse or as that justification of proceeding with the sectioning, because they had plenty of opportunity not to proceed with sectioning. Do no harm is the oath that I know for doctors. In this place, it is true, you can negate the contribution of advanced technology as a criminal attack. So I've done what science says. I looked it up. Spotting between periods can be induced by stressful levels in new environments. That's harmful to me. But stress is not always combated by medicine. I simply should not be here. The previous day, yes, I had been advised that, oh, the things you're going through are really stressful. The doctor had empathized, so to speak, and said, well, let me suggest an antipsychotic. Now, unfortunately, the thing is, because they're being so pretentious, I cannot say that to their faces, because they're only going to push to shut me up. Now, legally, and they are practicing under the Mental Health Act too, these are false concerns. This is pretentious. They could also get arrested. Because, to be honest, that doctor, the lady, I didn't get her name 2 days ago, and Dr. Nabil said she's going to look into who actually said that. The lady is the one who then went on to prescribe, as I found out this morning, that she went ahead and prescribed that antipsychotic anyway. It was offered to me this morning. And the nurses were saying, it's your regular medication. I said, no, I'm not on any regular medication. That's impossible. I don't even take paracetamol as a regular medication. What is it for? And they couldn't say. They kept on saying, it's your regular medication. I suppose in nursing language is to say that we're going to be offering this to you regularly. I said, no, it's inappropriate, because I then had to say to the other gentleman when he came a second time, perhaps he's the one who's able to convince people. I said, no, actually, I had a discussion with the doctor yesterday. She empathized with what I'm going through when I'm at home. But I totally manage my stress levels. I don't need to be in here. I don't need to be taking medication for it. There are many ways of dealing with stress. For example, I started exercising recently at home. But I had to share with Dr. Nabil this evening that I'm finding this place quite limiting. And I'm finding that I'm being kept in a merry-go-round where I've been told that, okay, we're concerned about your finances and your rentals of about £14,000. But at the same time, I'm not going to let you go. You're going to stay in here until I want you to. And then earlier this afternoon, a nurse expressed that they want your husband to turn up to pick you up. My husband is in Cameroon. To be honest, he's depending on me to give him some money. His friends have given him some money. So there's only £200 left, $200, sorry, left for him to retrieve his ticket, which is held by someone who donated money to help him get out of the kidnapping situation. Unfortunately, because there's such a pretension around my relationships with the mental health teams, I cannot fully disclose. Well, actually, I did. We talked about it. I said I've contributed just a little bit of money, considering what his friends have given towards the situation. So the doctor knows that it's close to impossible for me to give him money while I'm in here. And she's saying, well, I suggest you try some medication while you're in here. So basically, preparing me for the stress levels in here is what it is, I think. It's not appropriate. I shouldn't be held here for an experiment of medication. I actually asked, are you experimenting? Are you running an experiment? Do you want me to participate in something? And she said no. Had she said yes, then she'd need to debrief me on what it is, why I'm here. Yesterday, this audience was saying, I think the police have bugged her room because they could not be projected in here. And then this morning, Subia said, I cannot physically attend now. I'm going to have to use technology. And I could not use my hip. My hip bone was locked as if it's in a jaw of a wild animal, or as if some sort of appliance has been used to clamp my hip. Some sort of appliance that can dig into flesh and bite on a bone. I said it to a nurse earlier as they were coming to check in on me. And then I said how I had been spotting to a different nurse later this evening. All those things do constitute to the environment too. So it can be something that's presented covertly. So you see how the dilemma is. By the time that they're expressing that, okay, maybe it's your mattress, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, it's basically still showing that this is a harmful situation, I shouldn't be here, and this is an experiment. Unfortunately, now led by mental health doctors. Do no harm. I asked the lady yesterday, would you like me to participate in an experiment? Is that what it is? She said no. So I'm an unwilling participant. I've appealed. My husband has written a letter and I showed it to the nurses and the manager, and I've still not been attended to in the legal right. When you look at the Mental Health Act and the way that I was approached, this is an arrest. Now, I said the first time that they did this, I told my friends, I've been acquitted, discharged with no charge. I did not get into, I was falsely arrested and all that, because my friends might not understand it to that extent. But that's why when you come into a place like this, they offer you solicitors to get you out. The doctor earlier said, I'm opting in because I said I emailed the solicitor. It was quite difficult to converse the very first time. We still did it. But when the tribunals were being held, I should expect that I might get a response soon anyway. When the tribunals were being held, the solicitor was not present. But events around what was going on during my time in the Mental Health Institute caused the tribunals to be held urgently, and I was discharged. Excuse me. Now, at the time, I did not think that was as prompt as expected. one of the meetings was moved to a day later or 2 days later, so I stayed in longer than I expected. I guess it is what it is. I had to wait. But then in here, each time they've said to me, it will cost you 28 days. I said, no, that's not how it works. I do know the law, and I know partly of your procedures. I have to express myself as soon as I come here to say, I'm not happy with this. And your notes shouldn't say I'm consenting. But last time, as I found out from the ambulance and I expressed to them, I didn't consent. I expressed it quickly. And then I showed them the discharge letter. And also, I think at some point they probably did hear the audience and the whole live streaming thing, because they then documented. Whether they were inside or outside when they realized it, they came back to my flat, documented that this is a police matter. And I asked them to make that discharge letter available. The people that arrested me the day they brought me in here, they claimed they had the discharge letter. The social worker, she did not disclose that she's a social worker the whole time. That discharge letter, oh my God, I'm realizing something. That discharge letter is available for Havering mental health and well-being service, and the nurse who's been in the community with me. Oh my God, I just realized something. So there's no way she has this discharge letter. Oh my God. She got me snacks as she was admitting me. And I actually offered, okay, shall we share it? Because she kept on prompting me to eat while it's warm. I then had to give her back the sandwich. Because I thought, okay, maybe she's hungry. And she spent her money. So let me give her back the money. And then she seemed a bit shocked when she asked me again about my property. And I said, yes, I own it. So this is a social worker who deals with housing. When people have mental health illness, there can be a stigma there in how you are addressed by key workers. While I was asking the social worker, while I was telling her, because she was asking me what I wanted to eat, and I had said, oh, you can give me an egg sandwich. And I was thinking, maybe. And then she said, please. And then I said, oh, sorry, I was still thinking of what else to tell you. And then she said, oh, what's that? And I said, I was thinking a chocolate bar. And then she said, and do you want a drink? And I said, no, it's okay, I'll have water. Please. She was getting upset and probably expected me to be rude back. There was no need. I think I had stood up to show her something at some point. And then she was refusing to see it. Wow, the way you just dismissed me. It's like you're talking to a child. She was getting upset. Maybe the whole situation. I think this is why I presented another video earlier on and said, even when the wheels are in motion, there has to be something that governs how people deal with these situations so that they stop, think, and actually stop, take the courage to stop the wheels in motion. Can avoid so many things. I'm not here to be whistleblowing. But unfortunately, this could turn out into a scandal. Because I'm totally within my rights. It's pointless keeping me here and then try to explain to someone that I think I did this because she was rude. Or I think I did this because what it comes down to is taking advantage because I'm not presenting as a violent person. I've already heard in here that's how it is. It's like prison. It's exactly like what you watch on prison, the aggression, the dismissals, the stigma. So now you don't, I'm not calling emergency services per se because they already know. Unless maybe I find out some key information, like I had to call about something, a disclosure. So Zubair has admitted that he's an assassin as of early hours. And the whole thing about he was proposing marriage when he was thinking, okay, I can't kill her now, so maybe I can keep her for a little while. I'll keep her in marriage. Keep me in marriage. Do you know, the thing is, anyone can stop the wheels in motion. It's a simple apology. Do you know when people have had press conferences, but we really shouldn't be waiting for that. I had already dealt with the stigma of what they did the first time. My business communications were improving. People were gladly escalating to the police issues when they found out that this was criminal. There was criminal interventions. So it's not forever. It's a struggle, but it's not forever. But since September, these criminals were determined to get me back into this situation. Because they can't kill me while I have access to my property. So they've been trying to take my property. It's ridiculous for a criminal to try and excuse himself with marriage. But the people who've been around him then perhaps were empathizing with their criminal and saying, okay, so now you're tired. Go over there, knock the door, propose marriage to her. I said, no, no one will be doing that. I was very stern and firm. Don't you dare knock my doors. And sir, with all due respect, I'm sure you're an elder in the community. Don't encourage him to do that. Never encourage him to approach me because I will have to defend myself. Considering the way he's treated me, the way he describes his attacks on me, I will have to defend myself. And this is possibly around the time when he threatened to rape me. How do I open the door to someone whose mind is in such a place against me? The man who's been threatening to rip my ovary out. The man who's been threatening to come in through my doors when they're open, to rape me, to beat me up, throw me over his shoulder and rape me. You see, this shows that this man is very aware that sexual encounters or those coveted attacks where he is projecting and taking videos and exposing them to other people, he knows is demeaning, he knows is dehumanizing, he knows is degrading. He knows that when he rapes people, he is doing something to someone's mind to reduce them to nothing. He knows that when he attacks people, he is taking something from them, something human from them. He is silencing people he's intimidating them into silence. So like when he sexually violates me and I keep quiet, he starts to say to the children he lives with, see? And then the children say, good. Apparently they'll be thinking that I'm intimidated. I'll be disgusted and focusing on whatever I can. I ignore him as much as I can. By the time I pick up the call to the police to say something, I am sickened to death by this guy. Not that I would do anything to myself, whether I've put on makeup or not. I care about myself too much. I love myself too much. And that criminal hates it. So he gets suicidal. He tries to convince himself every few minutes that he's intimidating me. So can you imagine when I'm asleep? He thinks he's isolating me, keeping me as his toy thing. He's using advanced medical device technology to pump and insert things into my body. And he's got a whole audience describing those things. Sorry, excuse me. Yes, hello. Oh, okay. Excuse me. Are there any doctors about? Huh? Are there any doctors about? Doctor? Yes. Dr. Nabil said she was going to get back to me about some things that we discussed, and I discussed something with the nurse. I think maybe she's coming back because I haven't seen. I don't know where she is because I saw her on the ward. I don't know how. Still at this time, she's on a night or twilight. No. Yeah, I know. I think what just happened there is the nurse had decided to lie to me. That patient got really upset. Because the lady just said, it's good I'm opting in. That lady doesn't take any nonsense. I think she couldn't tolerate the lies. I just had to lock my door. My knowledge and experience of human psychology lets me know that even when I used to take care of people with learning disabilities, sometimes the patients would defend staff against each other. So that staff member was about to lie to me about the whereabouts of the doctor and if the same doctor would attend. I mean, she's probably pretending that she doesn't know who I am. As the nurse was taking over tonight, gosh, I'm actually quite shaken by that. She may not have been told that I'm a nurse, but there's no way of pretending about this situation. I wish I could pretend. I really do. This has gone on too long. Had I not witnessed what just happened, they could easily take it out on that patient. If they keep me here long enough and I see how they treat the lady next door to me, then I'm now a witness of institutionalized abuse, because it's more likely that staff will defend each other. Oh, goodness gracious. Seriously, I have warned them. Simply by pursuing my appeal, because it says you can face a manager can make you informal, and then you can request to have a tribunal. I requested the managerial one. So the doctor earlier said she's opting into, maybe because she's decided that I won't be, that, oh yeah, she did mention the tribunal, so she's decided to do it the tribunal way. Perhaps that's what it was. When a manager could actually make me informal. The judgment of my conduct on the day I was set out there for hours, since around 2, maybe 2:30, until it was around 5 p.m. when I was speaking to the manager. And she kept on saying she's opting in, because she would come out, sort of dance around with the other patients, talk to them. I think the whole time, it's enough to actually tell what's happening with the new admission. They didn't show me to my room or anything. I thought, okay, maybe I'll find out what's happening. Then she kept on repeating that you might be here for 28 days. She did not have the courage to actually do the right thing. NMC code and the 6 C's demand that nurses be up to speed and know what to do in situations like this. This is not going to be cool. It's not going to be cool. I couldn't wait until I come out to keep my head down. I know there will be clinicians, there will be other people who can support whistleblowing, who can flag these situations up. I don't want to be involved in a scandal. It's not fair. It's not fair. Sometimes when people who are vulnerable stick up for other people, I don't think they would ever abuse this lady. She's courageous. She's courageous. All she was doing was telling the person to go away. She didn't touch the nurse. She just told her to go away in a very stern, aggressive way. But she didn't touch her. I was looking through the door. Or perhaps she was defending herself because the nurse was trying to walk away. She was trying to defend herself too. Because once you already find a clinician like this on a night shift is a very long time. You don't know what it's going to be like. She's already started lying. So she's basically treating me as if I don't deserve her honesty. I don't know if it will be worth requesting much after someone behaves in that way. I don't know. I actually don't know. I actually don't understand why she would have been doing this. I'm asking her direct questions. Anyway, let me not major it. When I'm in my property, I don't have to experience this. These guys are organized criminals. They'll stand back or go back into their property. They know I filed an injunction against them. They already knew. From the day I went to Romford County Court, they don't stand around in front of the patio as much. But on Christmas, around Christmas, they tried it. Zane tried it. Came out on the phone, timed, just as I was about to leave the property. And they were actually saying the intention was to pretend that everything was normal, so that they hold me in disrepute of what they're doing, of that he's actually being groomed to be attacking me. Zane had tried to twist my neck. Zane had tried to kill me. And he developed the capability of knocking people's limbs until they fall. And quite a few times he did it right in front of me. And then he did it to someone who was an elderly woman who went running in front of me to get on the escalator with heavy bags. And she fell back, she tumbled down, and I had to catch her. I shouted, "Help." Someone helped me stop the escalator. I helped the woman sit up a little bit. She was getting trapped in the space of the escalator. And she was getting aggressive while helping her. Elderly people can be like that. They can be very uncomfortable with a chocolate brown woman touching them, even if they need help. And as a trained person, I know that still you have to help the person. I could stand back, but she would have fallen and hurt her crown. It's inhumane. So as soon as it was safe to leave her with the other people who ran towards her, Caucasians and Asians, I then stepped back and said, okay, I'll let you guys take over from here, and went about my business. And they called an ambulance for her. A few days later, they were talking about it in that flat. They had done it. But during that time, we had to rationalize that it's probably hypertension. Her blood pressure fell. The problem is, who is going to correct that? To say, actually, that's what they said. It's them. While people are pretending. How will she have the courage to even stand up for herself? That actually what the parliamentarians are discussing, how to empower the police to deal with advanced technology, cyber technology attacks. Because it's there in the paper. A war is looming, coming towards England. Now, we might not be discussing Zubia Francis directly, but I don't think the politicians are ignoring this situation. President Trump had an issue with the BBC News. The live presenters don't hide the fact that they can address people through smart television anymore. Things like this are announced directly to people. If only Jonathan Charukupa was courageous enough as a politician to actually address this situation too. While I watched the news, it was commended by politicians in a parliament sitting in the House of Commons. They supported our marriage at the time. They wished us well. It was direct. There was no pretension about it. All sorts of different parliamentarians expressed their support for our marriage. Hannah at the time had been announcing that war is coming to England. She was going to bring war. And lately she has been quite expressive that sometimes she will say, let her get married, let her fly away. Otherwise there'll be hell to pay, they'll kill me here. So has Zubia Francis. He's had his own revelation. If my husband doesn't arrive, he's going to die. He's going to be killed by emergency services. He's expecting it. He's been expecting the arrest since summer 2025. He laughed about his participation in blowing up Air India. And sometimes, like the night when he had threatened to rape me, he decided to be attacking me until the police came. They even made a strategy to, he even directed Hannah that, okay, when they come, you rile them up. And then I'll come back and pick you up from the police station. But tonight I'll be dealing with this woman while they take you away. So they actually know that they're doing wrong, and they know the police know. And sometimes they attack me so brutally so that I call the police. It's almost like a behavioral psychology thing. They've learned that when I call the police, especially when the police are sending me those, you've made numerous calls, text messages. These criminals ended up deleting all the messages that I was getting from Metropolitan Police, all the records of the police reports. Well, they play with my phone. Sometimes they will hide the messages, and then sometimes they prompt them back on. So things like phone numbers, excuse me, phone numbers I have, or phone numbers I've blocked. They unblocked my family's numbers a few months ago. I left it as it is. I knew it would work in my favor one day. And today it did earlier. So yes, sometimes I take advantage of the Their foolishness. I had already checked it anyway when they unblocked, when their numbers suddenly appeared on my phone. They'd hidden their numbers. I had someone in August help me to pay off a PCN, penalty charge on parking, a parking charge. When I had the hire car parked in the Cottons Park, I had no internet, I was being hacked. And so some two gentlemen who were playing football, they greeted me. And then they, I don't know what they asked me. And I said, oh, but I have no internet. And then the other one said, okay. I said, okay, unless you want to hotspot me. Then he was like, okay. And then he came to see me later and sat in my property. As soon as he got there, they were intimidating him. They said, this is a Muslim house. The funny thing is, the guy was Muslim already. And I told him, do you know what? Pay no attention, I own this property. And so he settled down. Otherwise, he could have got jumpy immediately and left without helping me. So I paid off that PCN. I paid it off within days. And then that company, Wheels, yes, it was Wheels. They tried to, because I had sent it to them when I got it, because I had no internet most of the time. So I sent it to them to just keep it on hold for me until I deal with it. I'm sure I expressed that in the email, that just hold onto this for me. Excuse me. Didn't they try to pretend that they were the ones processing it and issue me an admin charge? Now, the only problem is, if they've actually marked my name to say that they were charging me, if they've marked my name financially, at some point, I'm going to take courage to sue them. Because I cannot be blacklisted financially. When I had already paid the ticket, I've explained to them that I paid the ticket. This ticket I only presented to you on hold just in case of anything. But I'm informing you now, I've already paid for it. So there's no need for you guys to process anything. They were asking me for £25. For what? The PCN is already paid. And unfortunately, in their hacking gang, someone hid the number of the man so that it would never come back. What they do is, if they feel threatened by anyone, when they communicate, should it be a text message, they talk about, oh, we have to hold the messages. Okay, now it's time to release a message. So sometimes by the time you're responding to a message that's just been released, it's already too late. The person is no longer there. Maybe they've been in the area, or they're just not available. I used to have to ring my ex-partner quite a lot before he can answer the call. And lately I've been realizing that these hackers will be in my phone, just hanging up on people. Sometimes I was thinking it's the people who are calling me. But perhaps that's why the company co-owning my property is on edge. Maybe they are actually just disconnecting the calls. Because I saw a missed call yesterday after I spoke with the doctor after 10 a.m., after the ward route at 10 a.m. That's when I saw the missed call from the housing agent who co-owns the property with me. And then later I was seeing emails in that. I'd prefer to have the money so that I can set up the direct debit, or at least pay something towards the charge. So today I got a bit distracted. I meant to have called the SMI people. The wheels were already in motion for my husband to take care of things. But he's just been set back. And these criminals know that once he hits England, he'll just activate his money and things will be okay. Then I'll be leaving. But when he was on his way here, Hannah jumped out of her flat in the corridor and said, "Rumbi, don't leave. Who will I fight?" As if to say she's got no worthy opponent. And then yesterday I find out that actually they were assigned as assassins and are incurring any weapon, any strategy possible to try and kill me. And sometimes she's using the very weapons to attack me, sexually assault me. She's the one who was training Zayn. And when she started, she said, "Prove that you're loyal to me." They're trying to dispute or present a disputing facade that they're no longer having a swinging sex club in there, and that they've now swapped sexual partners or are being more permanent with the different partners. The other ladies had to run back one day when Hannah and Subia were about to sleep together. The thing about the live audience, they announce these things, and so she had to run back to make sure Hannah didn't sleep with her current partner Zubia, because Hannah is supposed to be with Zayn now, with the younger guy. So yesterday the social worker was asking me, "They're not married?" And I said, "No, they're not married. They've been lying about their marriage." But as discussions went later on, she looked at me sternly and said, "But they're husband and wife," as if she was convinced. And then I thought, eh? I was looking at her like, what? Are you now trying to shut me up? Like, this is how it is. This is what I'm saying to you. She had already been kind of like, please try to switch it up as if I was being rude to her. As I said, when I had to say, I thought I was still telling you that I want something else. It's quite embarrassing when you've been offered something and you're still talking. You know, I was embarrassed, honestly. When people take advantage of you because of the position you're in and there's no option, I was embarrassed. I was still nice. I offered it back to her. What can you do? In my language, you say, "Mrombo arovechinengo." You don't hit the one who's in a more privileged position. So I left it. You humble yourself for sometimes, yes, you're not a pushover, but you don't just start opening your mouth anyhow when someone is holding pen and paper to judge you or keyboard. At clicks of buttons, that information will be sent out to multidisciplinary teams, say all sorts of things about you. Because already being here, whether I have capacity or not, is totally regardless of the situation. They've got paperwork that has authorized them, legal paperwork that has said we're taking the rights of this person away. We don't have a firm decision yet, so they lied to me that it's your family. I said to my mother, you have to be careful because they were blaming you. So yes, my mother said, she said to them, yeah, we're concerned about what is she doing, how is she doing financially, how is she doing? But that's not to say that they called them. She clarified it for me that she was called by the people to say, we're going to see her, we'll update you. She said we were sleeping. And then she said, okay, so how is she doing? Well, yes, we also want to know how she's doing. So in this case, there are so many twists. Mental health people, Please, I beg you, please try to be honest. This situation is not good. It's not looking good at all. People are lying left, right, and center. Who's going to tell me the truth? On that note, this is where I thank God for smart technology. Although sometimes it can be a bit much and it can be used against you. But goodness gracious, we can't make a habit of treating people like they don't think and just say you're opting in because you're getting away with it. Just because in that moment you've intimidated me to some extent. When you then say something in a certain way that I should not challenge you. I've studied psychology. So I know when someone is in a position to abuse their power. And I know this is how some of those scandals happened. When I mentioned Middlesbrough, baby P situation, then you know the era that I probably studied nursing. During the NMC Code 15, I took it so seriously. It's still a part of me. I'm sure it's obviously it's been developed over time. It's been developed somewhere else now. But goodness gracious, this is not a good situation at all. The only setback it is for me is even though I've got my phone to be working on the internet, I'm not feeling motivated to. Sometimes I am making it. Sometimes I'm finding out that the apps have already been tampered with. And then I'm stuck with fractions of coins being remunerated to me. And so it's almost, what can I say? It's almost impossible to hit the targets. Where I'm supposed to just raise $100 to get it into my PayPal account directly. I'm being awarded 0.001 of a cent, of a dollar, of a cent. And it's not adding up. I was stuck on one of the apps. I emailed, but the email I've responded to, the email I've sent the information to. The unfortunate thing is I could simply be emailing people in fact for Oak House who've tampered with the app already because they cloned my phone before. They cloned my phone. They stole another handset in 2024 when I left and went to live with my family there. They cloned the phone and they've put it, oh my God. I put a video up where I found out that my phone was being used in so many other different places that I do not even know exist in the United Kingdom, probably remote areas. They've stolen my phone was being used in those different places, apparently my IP address. When I tried to even get my laptop connected to my WhatsApp application, it's not been connected because there are 4 other devices already connected. So can you imagine, by the time these guys have programmed something, there's already 4 people doing stuff in different apps. So sometimes I have to try out a few apps when I can't access the internet because there's a way that you can disable use of. I'm actually learning from criminal activity. There's a way that you can disable specific apps from getting access to the internet. Can you imagine? Now in these rooms, we're being filmed. I'm not sure if, I haven't been able to tell if there's a camera in here or not. I thought they were filming. In the other ward where I was, I thought they were filming. But somehow, these criminals are already recording. They've managed to bring their cameras here. Because they will be talking about things. Oh my gosh. I just saw an insect going up the crack on the wood. It's probably a spider. It just crumbled there. So there's a piece of hair that I dropped there. There's another piece of hair, so that's hair. But within that crack there, specifically there. Something just crawled in there. I asked for a mop earlier. I asked for cloths and detergents so that I can clean the bathroom. There's blood on the walls there. You know when blood discolors and turns black. There was something there. On the first day, there was blood on the seat. Maybe the previous patient, they tried also to ask for assistance with cleaning the room, because it shows in the sink, there's lines showing, rings showing that the patient probably plugged the sink so that they can wash. The shower is not working. I mentioned it earlier, but I don't think the doctor today would keep me here again. There's nothing, I guess there's nothing like you're rocking the boat. In the end, you end up saying, okay, this is happening. Can you look into this, please? Can you help me with this? Obviously, it's getting a bit clean because I've been washing my clothes. My mom was offering to bring stuff, but I said no, because you can't lock these doors from outside. I don't have the keys on me. As fine as my camera is, it's not showing. It's not showing properly the rings, the lines. Okay, it does a little bit. There's another line here, another line here. So it looks like it's getting clean from me washing, but... So I asked for lines. Oh, this is the one I can't deal with yet. Those tricks. That's what I can't deal with yet. There was blood on there, but obviously I've cleaned it up. I felt so disgusted that I said on it. Stains, blood stains. I'm sure the person in here was quite diligent and was trying. Sometimes you can't help these things. For them to be released, I'm sure they were trying. I actually said, please, let me get a mop, let me get cloths and detergent, let me clean the shower room, please. Because you never know, it might work. But so far it hasn't worked for me. So I'm having to use the sink. I can't plug it because obviously the sink is not cleaned. It's not about checking me for OCD, for attitude or what. It's just the way things are in places like this. Fine, they've told me this is a very violent ward, apparently. But still, at some point, someone should have remembered to give me the mop. If I should ask them now, they'll say tomorrow morning. That's what they said to me yesterday. Say tomorrow morning the cleaner will be here. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. Today, I asked after I found that the cleaner had been in the corridor. So once I managed to come out, because normally they'll clean when you're outside, I thought, okay, she's going to come in. No, apparently it was because I didn't. What did I not do? Actually, I don't know. I don't know what the reason was today, why they didn't clean. But regardless, me, I wasn't bothered. When I'm in my house, I'm cleaning all the time. Me, for just one person, I'm cleaning all the time. I like my toilet to be smelling of bleach. So even if I don't flush, at least, if I put my product in there, at least it's taking care of the area so that my toilet doesn't stain. I'm looking forward to renting the place out. So, it's not like you don't want it to be dilapidated. I take pride in my setting. I like my flat. I like to have my living condition. Even as a student, once I get into the property, I have to clean it down, scrub down the walls. I think it's force of habit from when I was in high school, in boarding school. We used to clean the place. Before you leave, you clean the place. You scrub everything from top to bottom. So when you're coming back on holiday, You're not starting to look at the places and thinking, when you see stains, you know everyone has gone through it. Every dorm, every hostel has gone through it. On some day, you've seen them with buckets cleaning up the place before they leave. So by the time you're getting into a new term, or even if you're being assigned a new dorm, you know they've cleaned. They'd make sure. So whenever I get into a place, I want to clean. Because honestly, you don't know how it's been. And as women, you have to have sanitary conditions. I think they've just brought the wrong person into this place. I'm sorry. Ah, blood stains. No. So that whole one is the only one I haven't cleaned off. You'd wish it's paint. But when you see blood discoloring, there's nothing you can do about it. Because if you want, what ends up happening is the police can investigate the other person who was leaving. Were they on their period? Simple question. And the person just says yes or no. Because me, I'm not on my period. Only today I spotted briefly, and it wasn't even dripping. It's something I saw pink on the tissue. So you can't even say it's me. Because that was on the other day. I've been here for 2 days now. I didn't even want to take a picture. By the time I was using the toilet again, I just cleaned it. As soon as I got soap, because I was asking for a soap for a long time. When you're in hospital, people can just, fine, let's say they're busy. Anyway, let me end this video. I didn't realize 2 hours.